This is the Digital Agency Insiders Podcast. Inside, you'll learn how to build, grow, and scale your digital marketing agency, all from the comfort of your favorite coffee shop. Let's get started with the show.
Hey, everybody, and welcome again to the Digital Agency Insiders Podcast. This is the podcast that gives you an inside look into how entrepreneurs built and grew their digital marketing agencies. My name is Tabitha Thomas, and I'm your host. And if this is your first time listening to us, I want to encourage you to go subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever it is that you're listening to this podcast, and drop me your review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you think about the podcast. So today I have with me Mary Ellen Slayter, and Mary Ellen is the CEO of RepCap. Before creating her own content marketing firm, she served as Director of Content Development and Senior General Business and Finance Editor at SmartBrief, a leading publisher of email newsletters. Now, before joining SmartBrief, she spent 8 years at the Washington Post, where she authored the Career Track column and worked as an editor in the business news department. Mary Ellen, excited to have you with us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Super excited to have you. And so the first question that I start every single podcast off with, because it's my absolute favorite one to ask, is what did the path of becoming an entrepreneur look like for you? I feel like everybody's got a different story, and entrepreneurs are they're not born that way. There's always a path. So I'm always curious to hear what that path sounds like for everyone.
Yeah, so for me, it was an abrupt one, is the best way I could describe it. I was working at SmartBrief, which was the last job that I had. And while I was there, I loved that job, right? So I was there for 3 years. We built all kinds of cool things, including some big newsletters, like they have a SmartBrief on Workforce, this HR newsletter and leadership stuff. So we were working on a lot of cool things. But it was also a very tumultuous time for the company. And I actually got laid off from my job at SmartBrief. It was like 3 weeks before Christmas. It was on my older daughter's birthday. I had just moved back to Louisiana, and I was in the middle of a horrible, messy divorce. So December 9th, 2011, I got up and had a call at 9 a.m. and then went like, okay, my daughter was at home from school with me, that day. I'd kept her out because it was her birthday.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So I went and I had a good cry, and then we went out and celebrated her birthday. So in the middle of this, in the back of my mind, I'd had for some time the idea of starting a content marketing agency, which sounds like a really obvious thing now, but at the time, like that wasn't a full-fledged thing. This is 2011, that's just starting to get going, and I recognized there was this gap between what advertising agencies were offering and like what traditional news journalism editorial people were doing, and I wanted to bring that together. So I go and I'm like sitting there, I've been thinking about it. It was kind of in the back of my mind. And I went and then I posted on Facebook that day. I was like, oh, I just got laid off. This sucks. And a friend of mine, a fellow entrepreneur woman who had already made that leap and who I had confided in about my ideas, she called me and she said, congratulations. Tell me about your business. And I'm just like, too soon, girl, too soon. Call me back next week. But she was also like, her name is Jennifer Benz, and she runs a benefits communications company based out on the West Coast that just got acquired by their largest competitor. And now she's part of that firm. But she was, even in those early days, she kind of talked me through like how to pull this off. But that's how it started, and abruptly, truly.
Well, thank you, Jesus, for all of the women that are like that, who can call you and be like, congratulations, instead of like, how are you? I'm so sorry. She saw in you what was there. So
she kicked
awesome.
me in the ass. Like she still does to this day, in the gentlest, nicest, most loving, supportive way possible.
Hey, everyone needs that swift kick in the rear end. That's right? For sure. Yeah. So tell me about the agency that you've got now. What is it that you do there besides social media? Give me a little bit more details.
Oh, yeah. No. So RepCap is a content marketing agency, and we are strictly B2B. And our specific verticals are HR tech, insurance, and financial services, which were the areas that I knew the most about as a reporter, because in my previous life, I was a traditional journalist. When I was at the Post, I was a business reporter. So I made the decision to go in really specific and really narrow, rather than trying to do content for everybody. You know, I said, you know what, I actually only do the content that nobody else can wrap their mind around. I know my industries through and through. You know, the people I hire know these industries through and through. So I always tell people, don't call me if you need something, if you need somebody to write about blue jeans. Go get somebody who's excited to write about blue jeans. Call me when you need somebody that can write, that's excited to write about CDOs. You know, like that's excited to write about LIBOR. Like, that's what we do. That's our specialty.
Well, congratulations then, because there's so many agencies that I talk to, especially those that have been around for several years, who spent a lot of the early years trying to be everything to everyone and realized, you know, quickly or not so quickly, that that's not the route to go. So congratulations on being able to niche down very quickly, because I'm sure that saved a lot of headache and a lot of heartache and all of that stuff.
Well, and it lets us come in as true partners. For our clients. So people come to me not just because they need content made. I mean, yes, we do white papers, we do email newsletters, we do blog posts, like all that stuff. We make videos now and produce podcasts ourselves, but like, they don't come to us because we can do that. They come to us because we can partner up with them. We understand the landscape of their specific industry. You know, not just, we know their competitors. I don't have a learning curve for that. I'm not walking in going, oh, what does your business do? It's like, I walk in and I'm like, yeah, well, how's that different from 1, 2, and 3? Oh no, we got to tighten your positioning, you know? Or like when they would come in and say, I always like to give this example. There was early on, a couple of years ago, people were saying, we want to be experts in the future of work. And I'm like, okay, what about it? What about it? Like, what is your vision? And they'd be like, what? You know, the future of work. And I'm like,
what does that mean?
Is it a dystopian future? Is it a utopian future? Like, what you got? Are we all like, you know, are we all wearing wearables? Like, I don't know. I don't think anybody's going to predict what actually happened. Well, the people who did. But yeah, here we are. Like, the future of work.
Yes. The future of work is working, is hiding from our children trying to get work
in our
done.
closets.
What that is.
Yes, yes, it is.
So my next question is usually, you know, talking about your niche, but we know exactly what your niche is. And I'm excited that you've narrowed it down very quickly. So how do you go out and find clients for your agency? What is your biggest tactic right now?
So I'll tell you, so there's 2 things. Like, one, they find us. If you will dig in and tighten your positioning, like, you will find that, you know, people, you're not just like trying to compete with all these other undifferentiated agencies, right? Like, people know who we are in the spaces that we operate in. You know, I know who my competitors are. We refer business to each other whenever we have non-competes that collide, right? Like, so, that's part of it. So I show up, I go to the industry conferences, is what I would have told you in the past. I've got, you know, 20 years of these relationships, first as a reporter, you know, as a journalist, and then, you know, running my agency. I go to the events, like, I stay on top of things. And now I'm doing the same thing sort of digitally. You know, I mean, we are increasing our output of content. You know, we host webinars, we do guides, you know, as I say, we do drink our own champagne, you know, like, we do share our ideas through content, right? Good differentiated content. So we do that. And then I'm working just to maintain the relationships, those real life relationships that I spent all that time developing through virtual connections. You know,
I was going to ask, did the having the experience working in the reporting help with the relationships that you've got? Now, that was going to be my next question.
No, absolutely. I mean, because I even like as a reporter, I was not, best reporters, you're not transactional. I mean, you can be, right? You can show up, ask a question, and peace out, and never talk to anybody again. But things get really good when you've come back and you've asked again and again and again. And I bring those skills into my work as well. Like, so, you know, a lot of what we do is strategic advisory work on content when I'm trying to figure out that positioning. And it's like, I tell my team, it's like, the first question you ask is a throwaway. The third question is when they're going to confess something interesting, you know, like, you got to knock them off their talking points.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to build a relationship too. It's not, you got to be able to have some kind of something back and forth there. How are they going to trust you on the first question?
No, they're not. You can't come in hard and fast at first, but you also can't drop it after that first thing. And I think relationships are like that too. If like all you think about your networking is that I go there and I go around and I hand out my business card, or I added someone on LinkedIn, like that's not a relationship.
No.
Right? That's the start.
Yeah.
Like, but you're going to have to come back around and you're going to have to do something for them. You're going to have to create value in that relationship, not just.
Yep. I've found, I'm in a small area and most of our clients are very local, and I'm very active in like our Chamber of Commerce and our local Lions Club and things like that. And I find anytime I go to any of those events, I never focus on networking. It's always just making a friend and getting to know somebody. And it always ends up being business because of that. But it's never the intent in going in there. So
yeah, it's like, do they trust you? Do they like you? Do they need you? And it's like, you cannot circumvent those things. I mean, you can, but it comes at a price, right? If you get somebody so desperate that they didn't feel like they could stop to check if they trusted you, like, is that a good customer? I don't think so. Like, I got to figure out if I'm going to trust you.
Yeah.
So
I start saying it goes both ways, them with you and you with them, because every client, just because they have money doesn't mean that's who we want to work with.
No, we vet. Like, I consider our sales process, you ask how we get our clients, I consider it less a matter of going out and getting them. I've got a good sort of flywheel that drives, business in through referrals and through inbound. I will also identify people I want to work with and go chase them down. That also happens. And there's very specific reasons. They're like, you're cool. I like what you're doing. You need to get this out in the world. And when I choose to do that, I think people take it for like, whoa, she means this. This isn't just some generic, like, this lady's stalking me. We better let her write our white papers.
Yes.
But it's and it doesn't, I guess the other thing is we're a lean team. I've only got 11 employees, like my staff, and then we'll flex up and down with contractors. But I'm not on the hook to go get business just to keep people fed, like that's we're a very like niche agency that focuses on quality of work that we're doing and commanding a premium price for it, rather than, I got a big office and I got 50 employees and we got 20 clients. It's like, I don't allow myself to have more than 12.
Okay. All right. So everybody's got one they're working with. I like that. So are you, before COVID, before the crazy crisis hit, were you guys in a building together, or are you all remote workers, or how was that?
Oh, we're fully remote. This team was built to be a distributed team from the start. So, and our clients are they're all over the place. So it doesn't really matter, right, where we are. I mean, my biggest client is Aon, the insurance company based in the UK, US headquarters in Chicago. Why would Aon care with their team scattered all over the world that all of my people sat together in Baton Rouge? They would not. So 2011, we started this off from the beginning, like, hey, we're going to work where we're going to work. And that's always been the case. So I'm here in Baton Rouge. I do have a couple other employees here, but they also work out of their house. I got somebody in New York. Like I got somebody that's currently working in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
No,
like it doesn't matter. We don't care.
As long as you got internet, you're good. That's the way our company is. From the very beginning, I've worked for remotely at home 8 years or so now. And it's like, I always say, everybody's like, how are you doing? How are you doing with the code? I'm like, I worked from home for 8 years. I'm good. The one thing I'm not used to is the kids being here while I'm trying to.
I try to tell people, like, this is not this experience that you're having right now is because they're like, oh God, it's so stressful to work at home. I can't wait to get back to the office. And I'm like, no, you can't wait for your kids to get back to school.
Yep.
Like, that's a different scenario. This is not regular work at home. This is also, this has been stressful for me too. And it is because of, I want to care for my children. I have to do things with my community. It's like, and then I'm just stuck in my house. Like,
well, and
I used to fly a lot. Like, I don't go anywhere. I haven't been on a plane in 3 months.
Yeah, it feels weird. Well, and then as a mom, you feel guilty because you feel like when you're working, you should be spending time with kids. When you're spending time with kids, you're supposed to be working. It's just like constant pulling, where I feel like I'm never 100%, anywhere.
No, and my 4-year-old knows how to lay it on me too, right? I mean, the 13-year-old, like I said, she's very independent and is just kind of doing her thing. The 4-year-old to be like, you never give me any attention. All you do is work. And I'm like, I track my hours. It's like, you give the garden more attention than me. Like that was another one. I'm like, baby, that's your come on out here. Right? Well, she helps me in the garden. So I'm like, you're just trying.
Well, and it's hard on them too, because this is all outside of their normal routines as well. So anyway, I'm getting off track here a little bit. COVID's kind of got me a little bit off track here. So once you do find and get new clients, whether that be somebody that's come to you or you track them down and be like, I'm working with you, what does that new client onboarding process look like?
Well, so I guess it kind of starts back in the sales process. It's almost like a vetting, right? Okay. So by the time we get to the point to that onboarding, we come in, we meet somebody and I say, okay, tell me about your problems. I say, okay, well, here's how we solve problems. And we can kind of come to an understanding, usually within 1 or 2 calls, depending on the relationship and the complexity of the problem. And we say, okay, we're going to work together. We always come in with a strategy engagement. Like there is no way that is the front door. So like at this point in the agency, like if you come to me and you say, write me a white paper, the answer is no. I don't just do one-off like things or write me a blog post. What I will do is like you come in and we figure out the problem and say, okay, I'll do a strategy engagement here. And that allows us to get in and we do a discovery process, where we come in and we learn, we look at their competitors, we benchmark it for them, we interview clients, we interview different team members. Like I'll say, like as usually I'll get head of marketing, and then in a big company or small company, I'll also get like the CEO or the founder or something. And I say, okay, I want to talk to the person who's the most different from you in this company. And then they'll go find me somebody, right? So we'll do these qualitative interviews, do some quantitative analysis. We'll go through and kind of help them figure out their positioning and where their content, their thought leadership opportunities are. And then the next stage is like actually mapping out a plan for them that, we try to figure out, what is your manifesto? Like it's an extension of your value prop, but it's not quite the same. We help them figure out like, what are you trying to say? Like, what is the big idea that you're trying to put out in the world? And so in that sense, our onboarding is it's like, it is a strategic process, in which, that's our first engagement. Like we don't go anywhere after that. Now, once we get through that stage, which usually takes 6 to 8 weeks, we can move into supporting them with content creation. Teaching them how to do content creation, or like let them run with it and come back and, I can be an advisor for you every once in a while. Yeah. But that strategy piece,
that's intriguing.
That's everything.
So what's the idea behind finding the CEO and their personality and then finding the person that's opposite of them? What are you trying to discover in that particular process?
So one of like, I guess my core beliefs about thought leadership, which is primarily we do thought leadership content. It's really about getting that big idea and putting it out there, is that once you have a company with more than 5 people in it, like I'll say, once it tips over into that, you're going to have the CEO, the founder is going to have their perspective about what the value add is, right? And like how they're adding value to clients. The CMO or head of sales, those people are going to have an idea. But if you can get that person who, and they're usually very sales oriented, they're not operational, they're not customer service oriented. If you can get your hands on that person, has that different personality, that different perspective about what the customer values, you can unlock things that will often surprise the leadership team. Because they all sit around talking to each other.
That's what I say. They've never asked that question of anybody outside of their own little circle.
No, they're just talking to each other. So we try really hard to break that up.
That's good. I really like that a lot.
It surprises them. That's where some of the most surprising insights come from. And then getting a hold of a client, the words that the client uses are different. The words that the rank and file employees are very different.
Yeah. Well, and I bet the person who is actually selling the product understands the customer more than anyone.
Yep.
I'm betting either that or customer service.
I'm telling you, because they know the salespeople have their whole routine and they hand it off. But like the people, get an account rep, get that like customer success person, they know where it goes awry.
Yes. They know where it's broken and how to fix it usually.
Yep.
Our help desk, those people are amazing. I love them. So once you get somebody working with you, I'm assuming it's not just like a monthly thing. It's probably a year-long contract type thing. It seems to be a big project. So how long does work last with you guys?
So typically, so I do break it out. That strategic engagement takes a couple of months, and then there's the implementation of that. If we have an ongoing implementation relationship, we will typically come back and refresh that strategic plan once a year. I've got clients that sometimes they come in and we really do just add value as consultants and we get out, which I don't mind. Yeah. I've got other clients that have been with me for 11 years or for 9 years. We started in 2011. Some of my first clients are still with us.
Awesome. So that leads me to the next question. How do you keep people coming back to you? I mean, is there any, besides just delivering great service, obviously that one's, what everyone says.
Right. Yep. Nope. I would say that. That's not differentiated.
Yeah. I was like, outside of that, what are you doing to get them to come back to you?
Well, so part of it is we see our job not just to produce content, right? Like we aren't just the creative shop there to execute whatever ideas people have. We are here to serve as strategic advisors for our clients when it comes to their marketing and specifically when it comes to their content marketing. So we keep ourselves up to date, right? Like, so it's making sure that we are all at the tip top shape and like on the edge of what's going on in content marketing and in our industry. So we want to be in the position where the client is never ahead of us in terms of like ideas, in terms of new channels, in terms of like recommendations. Like we want to always be pushing them a little faster than they're comfortable going. I find that when that gets out of whack, like if there's a sense that they know more than we do, then we're out. So it's my job to always know more than they do. And that's not because I don't want them to be educated, because I'm educating them along the way, but like me and the rest of the team, like we are just constantly learning and constantly pushing. It's like, can you do this? Can you do that? Like I have a never ending list of things that people, could be trying.
Gotcha.
We're adventurous.
So when you're researching things and making sure that you're staying on top of everything, where are you guys looking for all the new trends that are coming out in marketing? Because it does change, I feel like, constantly.
So there's two ways that I approach this. One is by staying on top of like my professional association. So I love marketing profs. The stuff that Ann Handley and that team are doing when it comes to content marketing is A+. If you're at that best practices level. Same for the Content Marketing Institute, good best practices kind of stuff. So that tells me where things kind of are, like what are the table stakes. I don't look for inspiration there though, right? Because if I'm trying to look for what's next, I'm looking outside of that. Yep. So as a B2B marketer, I look at B2C marketing. I also look at art, frankly, like I'm looking at film, I'm looking at music, I'm looking at visual art, like my education is actually as a scientist. I have a degree in agronomy, which is soil science. So I try to stay in touch with what's happening in science and technology and the world at large.
Said that. I grew up, my family owned a fertilizer plant growing up.
So you know what agronomy is.
I know what it is. And I'm like,
that never happens.
Say this?
That never happens. No one ever knows what agronomy is. No, I have a whole a whole ass degree in dirt. My kids are just like, what?
Oh, I took a whole class in high school called turf management. So.
Oh yeah, like exactly. No, and people, somebody would say like, oh, you're at home and you're doing all this. And she's like, are you okay? And I'm just like, I've been preparing for this my whole life.
Yeah, I'm good.
I live in Baton Rouge in a central neighborhood near LSU, and we are currently building a chicken coop that's going to have 3 chickens, and I've got the whole system worked out for like between the vegetable garden and the chickens. Yeah. But yeah. So
I got you off track. I'm sorry. You said
no. That is my track. I'll talk to you about about my soil chemistry.
No, I like it.
But you bring that in, okay? Like because the secret to being a great marketer, the secret to being a great agency partner, principal, is to open your mind and have good experiences that like keep you ahead. Like where I see agency, founders, people who are otherwise like really brilliant people, they just get really complacent. Or if you're only looking at what other agencies do. So here's another example. We started a magazine under we killed our blog a couple of years ago. We were so bored with it. We were like, oh God, this blog has to go. So we're like, what could we do instead? So we launched a magazine. I went and bought managingeditor.com. and launched Managing Editor magazine in lieu of our blog. In many cases, it was similar material, but the difference between publishing something on your blog and publishing it as a magazine changes the whole tenor and the quality of the experience. So then we chose to launch Managing Editor. And when I was looking around for inspiration for that, I didn't look at other magazines, like other like marketing things. You know, I looked at it in the sense of like, I knew I didn't want to be that, but like when I finally realized what I wanted, I turned around to my my developer at the time, my designer, and I said, I want it to be like Bustle, but for content marketers. Okay. And she laughed at me, but like, then that's what we build, right? So instead of like copying like Content Marketing Institute and copying Marketing Pros and copying these other B2B trade magazines, that wasn't what I wanted. I wanted Bustle, but for content marketing.
Yeah.
And similarly, when we redid our agency website last year, I was like, okay, what do I want to do here? And we started looking comparative. I didn't look at other agency websites because I didn't want to look like another agency website.
Yeah.
My creative director, Ann, she said, well, what are your favorite brands? And I was like, Stitch Fix. And she's like, okay, what would it look like if Stitch Fix were an agency? Like, you know, so like if you go look, you can see elements of like their page design in our stuff. Like I wanted it to be as easy to use as Stitch Fix, like is easy to understand.
Yeah. No, I like, well, looking outside of your own element. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly get out of it. Go, don't look at other agencies. Don't look at other, go look at like things outside of that.
I like it. So staying ahead. I love it. I love it. So tell me what it is. What's your favorite thing about what you and your agency are doing right now?
My favorite thing that we're doing right now is like, you know, that's this whole COVID thing, you know, all this, as we say in the South, when all this, and you do a little hand wave, you have to wave your hand when you say it. It's like the way that we have always kind of in our DNA was to be helpful, right? Like our company mission statement, you know, is to improve the quality of B2B content marketing in, you know, in the industries that we serve. And that has taken 3 forms over time. One is the agency, literally we'll do it for you. Give us money, we will do this work. 2 is like, we've kind of got this training and development arm that is, we'll teach you how. And then the final part of it is like, you can just do it yourself. We've created this community. And that's what's around Managing Editor. And what I'm finding is that right now during COVID, you know, we sort of taken this opportunity to really, really invest in that middle piece, that training piece, because that's where we have found people are trying to figure out how to do digital marketing, like how to move, you know, B2B was so dependent on events, you know, on trade shows. And so how can we help people make this leap? And it's not necessarily about making money right now. Like we're fine. Like we are actually doing great. It's about how can we help people use this opportunity to get better and teach them how to be better. So we just kind of poured ourselves into that, like doing more webinars where we just give away our thinking. We ramped up our content production. You know, if somebody wants a call, I take the call. Like I'm not like vetting them for like, I mean, doesn't mean I'm going to work with them, but I'm going to take the call and I'm going to see if I can help them. If I can't, I'll steer them somewhere else.
Well, it's just doing the greater good right now, because that's what our world needs so bad, is it's just good right now, because everything 2020 just kind of sucks.
Right. It's like, I'd like a reset. But you know, what I love is that I see everybody on our team doing this. This isn't just me. Right. Like, and I could tell that this really is a part of our sort of culture because everybody does it. And they didn't have to be prompted by me to do that. They were just like, yeah, I just talked to so-and-so and I'm coaching them through how to do their podcast, or, you know, it's stuff like that. That is what I feel. That's what we're the proudest of, is the way that we are making other people better and helping them during this opportunity, like during this time, to take these opportunities where they can get them.
Well, that's awesome. That also helps, you know, you hired the right people. If they're doing the same thing that you're doing without you having to tell them, that's a sign of a good team and a good hire. So now that we've talked about your favorite thing, what's the biggest challenge that you've got going on right now?
Is this a COVID question or
besides
that, like, normal, you know, other than all that?
All that. Yeah.
Normal, I would say, because we are a specialty agency, we require specialty talent. So for me, even with like having the freedom to hire from anywhere, it is tough to figure out like who is going to enjoy and be good at the type of content that we do. And getting that synced up for, you know, for the work, right? It's like it's like catching lightning bugs.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they only come around like in a limited time. Like if you're either ready for them or you're not. And so I have to make decisions about talent that can sometimes feel ahead of the growth of the business, because I can't let that person go.
Yeah.
Like I can't miss that opportunity if they come up on the market, like, and they're looking for a job. So I just get them in the door and so that creates a lot of like, it can be rough on your cash flow, you know,
very much so.
But I have to do it that way. And I have to build in cushion to know, now that we're, you know, almost 9 years in, I know that that's just part of like the process, that I have to like hire when they're available.
Yeah.
And get them in the mix and then, you know, then go sell against it.
Yeah. It's never been a bad thing, I'm assuming. So once you get somebody that's good and you know you got the right person, it always works out.
Right. And then there's just like, you know, getting people who are a remote team, you know, and there's been the challenges of just like, how do we, not just their connections to me, but their connections to each other as they work on teams. Like that's kind of tough sometimes. But
so did you guys, before COVID, did you ever get together as a team? Because like we take trips and we'll end up getting together, you know, once or twice a year.
We do it. We used to do these 2 retreats every year. One was like the full, like, you know, strategic end of year thing. I have everybody come to Baton Rouge in December. And then the other one, we would all do a mid-year, and we would just pick some city that we all wanted to go to. Like, and we would do that in June or July. Like, obviously this retreat this year we will not be traveling. We were supposed to go to New York. So that's not going to happen. So we'll do something virtually. It'll work out okay.
I'm ready to travel again. And I bet the travel industry is going to boom once all this is done.
Yeah. It seems like it's a really weird experience for people who are having to travel right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's really strange.
Well, somebody told me the other day they got where were they going? Got plane tickets for like, between St. Louis and Denver for like $35 round trip. And there was like 4 people on the entire plane.
I believe that. And then there's some others that are super crowded, like to the point where they're like, this isn't actually safe.
I haven't heard that one. Wow.
Yeah,
I guess because you cut down how many they're doing, so you only have 1 or 2 available.
Right. I think it's certain routes, and like, you know, you don't know, like you might get the one that only has 4, or there might suddenly be a rush of people. So you're trying to figure out.
Yeah. No, not going anywhere.
Nope. Yeah, no, I feel like I'm probably grounded for the end of the year. Like I can't see myself getting back on a plane before then.
Yeah. So the last question that I always like to ask is, what are you currently reading or listening to that's helping you grow as an entrepreneur? Or are you like some where you're like, I read all trash because my brain doesn't need to focus on work anymore?
Okay. So so when I do read a lot, right, I come in and I've got like all the standard sort of businessy things, but when I want to, like, you know, we talk about your brain going sideways, I watch a lot of movies, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I try to bring in things, and I watch TV. So I try to watch at least a couple of like good movies a week, but then my biggest guilty pleasure, and I will tell you, I'll probably at some point going to write about things that I've learned, you know, from watching this show, but it's Supernatural.
Okay. I've never seen it, so I can't say anything.
Hey, look, this is the longest running sci-fi show like on American television, and it went for 15 seasons.
Wow.
And that kind of endurance, you know, like I admire the writer. I'm like, I do sit there and I watch it, and I'm like, man, they are trying so hard. Like they had to keep coming around and finding like new, you know, super villains for the story arc. And like, so I watch it as a guilty pleasure, but I also watch the writing, and the writing, the team that involved with that is like a lot of the people from the X-Files. You'll also see some of the old, so I'm a huge sci-fi fan. Yeah. So you'll see a lot of those people kind of pop up, and you're like, oh, hey, it's Krychek, you know, or like whatever. But I've actually been really into it, and I'm in season 7, and I'm watching like as these actors get older, which is funny. I bet they never thought when they took that job, the 2 leads, that they would have been doing that for 15 seasons.
Yeah, no.
So, but there's something to be said for that. So no, I'm not going to tell you, hey, of course I read Harvard Business Review, and of course I read like all the stuff that I'm supposed to be reading, but like where I'm really kind of getting my creative energy from right now is Supernatural.
That's interesting that you can watch something like that and pull things from the writers. Like you don't just see what's there, you see what's behind. I feel like I used to do, TV commercial type stuff, and I dissect things when I hated watching TV with some people because you get into dissecting things. So I like to see that you're doing that with the writing too, and it doesn't have to be industry related.
No, in fact, try to get out of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I do love to read. Like I've got people whose stuff I read, but that's not where the good stuff comes from.
Yeah.
Like that's not. Yeah. Like,
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Mary Ellen, for being on the podcast with us. I've enjoyed getting to talk to another Southerner and all the Southern dogs. So
right.
Yeah.
I made your accent come out.
Yeah. It's probably going to come out a little worse. So, Well, thank you for being on the podcast.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Digital Agency Insiders Podcast. For more tutorials on growing your digital marketing agency, make sure to visit digitalagencyinsiders.com.